Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with, yes, you are seeing this correctly, a Simon Says stamp kit. I know it has been a while since I've created any cards from a Simon Says kit, but glad to say I'm back. So as always, we will do a 5 cards 1 kit with the Simon Says kit. I know everyone would want 10 cards, but it's really tough to do that sometimes. So that was the stamp set that I was showing, and it's called Big Thanks Autumn. Just remember, one of the beautiful things that I really do enjoy when it comes to the Simon Says monthly subscription is you do have the ability to buy the items individually. So that's what kind of makes this one a little bit of enjoyable. I am in love with the paper that came with this kit. It's very watercolor. It reminds me of the Moda Scraps paper, this P13. So I took one of the pieces of cardstock and cut up the panels in there. So there's, like little tiny cards that you can cut or to make them tags or whatever you want. And I'm going to stamp one of the sentiments in each of these areas. So you can see I have 2 small ones and kind of a larger size of that. Now you're going to hear some paper crinking. Yes, that would be me, because of course I didn't take them out of the bag prior to doing the video. The embossing powder that I'm using is the Champagne by Recollections. I am a huge fan of the Ranger Liquid Platinum. It is my favorite embossing powder, especially as we're getting closer into Christmas. But the Recollections Champagne is a good alternative to it. So in case you're looking for this is my pride and possessions, people. The decal trimmer. I have had so many people ask if I was going to get this, and yes, there is no more fighting with a ruler. I am absolutely in love with this trimmer, very much so. It's not for everyone, that I am going to say. I will use this a lot. Sorry that the screen is shaking, but of course, I wanted you all to see me operate the decal trimmer, not that you needed to see how it operates. I know you all know that, but to just be as thrilled as I was with the deckled edges that I was getting in no time, instead of fighting with scissors and a tear ruler that I've never really mastered to operate. I'm just saying. So we won't be doing that. Well, okay, we're going to do it one more. I really am. This is something that I'm definitely going to enjoy. I will use this a lot when it comes to my journals that I create, to create those deckled edges. So again, I just wanted you all to see that and to say, yes, I got it. Very exciting. Yay! It was a long time waiting, but for me, it was definitely worth the wait. We all had to know that the vintage photo, now that I can't speak, was going to make an appearance into this video. Very fall-like. So I'm going around each of my images. Now, you saw that I grabbed one of the pattern papers with a design in the back. I'm using the 3 solid tones, but even though they're solid, they're grungy looking, which, for those of you that have seen my videos before, I am a huge fan into the vintage look or style, or grunge. I'm going to use my Tombow Mono glue, and I'm going to place these panels on top of the pattern paper. Now, of course, I'm not going to have 90-degree angles, so I am going to set them within each of these blocks on an angle, but to make sure that each of the sentiments are visible. So again, I've got friendship, kindness, and just a note to say thanks. So I thought they were all really fitting to each other. Once I get this last panel, I am going to use my double-sided foam squares to prop this panel up And no, I'm just not throwing those on the floor. I'm actually putting them off to the side. You know, there's times where I watch my videos as I'm doing the voiceover rather, and I just sit here in amazement as to the things that I do. Because obviously I am forgetting I'm filming. I'm going to cut a 4 1/4 by 5.5 panel from the Desert Storm, and I'm going to set this up onto that. So the deckled edge will be highlighted with that cardstock behind it. I grabbed a piece of fun foam, and I'm going to grab my 2-inch sided film tape. Now I get this from Uline. It is an extremely strong tape. It lasts for eons. I think this is my second roll that I literally just started going into, and I think I had both of them for like over 5 years. But it is a very strong tape. It is very non-forgiving. I mean, the moment you have that down and it touches paper, you will not be able to separate it. I mean, that's how strong it is. So I do like it for that reason, to attach my fun foam between the two layers, but it's just not forgiving. I cannot stress that enough. All right, so I'm going to make a slimline card now. So I have a panel here of Bristol cardstock, and that piece is cut to 3 1/4 by 8 1/4. So I grabbed my distress inks, and I have Fossilized Amber, ground Espresso, aged Mahogany, Forrest Moss, dusty Concord, and Crackling Campfire. And I am just going to town putting splatters on this piece. Once I'm done with one color and the splattering, I will come in and dry it with my heat tool. All right. I want each layer to be dry. I want these speckles and splatters to be individual. Okay, now you're all sitting there going, what the heck is she talking about there? All right. So if I didn't dry in between, you can see the amount of splatters I have on this card. I mean, it is nice and it's full when it comes to these colors. If I did not dry in between, I would have a lot of mud on this. I am now coming in with a faded jeans and then more of the espressos as well. So, okay, back to the card. If I didn't dry in between, these would actually blend together and bleed together, which would look great. It would be a lot of brown, because all these colors mixed together would give me that. But I wanted to make sure that each of the speckles would stay defined. So I hope I explained that a little bit, what I mean by that. I did not want them to blend. I wanted them to stay individual. Now again, I've covered the whole panel. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in carefully. You can see I've held down this piece of Bristol paper with many magnets. It's just so that it wouldn't shift, because again, there is some texture on the Bristol cardstock, and I wanted to make sure I had a good impression. I'm going to come in here with my Copper Recollections embossing powder. I am a fan of Recollections embossing powder. To the point where I will be honest, I think they melt like no other. Their fine detail, which this copper does fall in there, I just don't have a problem with it breaking. meaning the lines are continuous. It gives me a solid line when I heat emboss. I find that with their metallics, their silver, their gold, their champagne, and their copper. I'm really a huge fan of them. And I love it when they have a buy one, get one. Because that's usually when I stock up. So, okay, enough of the gabbing there. So what I've done is, and as you can see, I've stamped the top and the bottom, and I'm heat setting that. Again, it's copper by Recollections. I actually get it through Michael's. So you could leave it like this. You've got this great impression that's going across the piece. However, myself, no, can't do that. So what I'm doing is I'm coming in with one of my Nouveau brushes, and I'm coloring in the images, and I'm coming in with a paper towel and lifting. So this is doing two things. If you can notice, remember your distress inks are water reactive. So the moment the brush is coming into this area, it's moving those splatters. It's not taking them away, but it is shifting them. And I've got this base color going on. Again, you could leave it just like that. What I'm actually going to do now is I'm actually going to come in using the same colors. I'm going to use that ground espresso, fossilized amber, aged mahogany, forest moss, dusty Concord, Crackling Campfire, and I'm going to color in these images. It was something to try. I wanted to see what this was going to look like. I am a huge fan of how the distress inks look when you leave them on their own to dry. You get these awesome harsh lines and blooms and gradient values in the colors, and I just think it is absolutely gorgeous. I think they're great using them as watercolors. So, you know, if you're looking for that ink pad that is versatile, the distress inks are. You can't stamp with them because they won't give you a solid image, but you can watercolor with them. You can ink blend with them. So you can create your backgrounds, you can create your shading. They are very versatile. Once I get these colors down, you can see now I'm just dropping colors. I am not being precise with this. I don't want to be precise. I just want to make sure these colors are flowing and they're moving. I'm adding in some yellow into the sunflower, but I didn't want it yellow. I mean, I understand sunflowers are yellow, but you can see as I'm dropping this yellow in, it's pushing that brown that I started with. So it's just giving it, by doing this, just a hint of color. But in the background, you're still going to see the splatters. So I'm sure others have done this before. It's just something that I hadn't done, and I really wanted to try it. Again, just dropping in these colors. I know Christina Werner did a beautiful card with this stamp set. I think she used the Karen markers. And in a way, she inspired me on this one. But I did want to keep the splatters in the back and see what it would do. So again, something different. It's always fun to give something a try. As you can see, I was off in my cut, so I just trimmed down my 3.5 by 8.5 card base, and it is going to be a top folding, believe it or not. So once I have this layered onto my solid cardstock, I'm going to grab the Big Thanks stamp. Now, I started off by stamping that in the Gina K chocolate brown or charcoal brown. And I wasn't thrilled with it. To me, the thanks wasn't, But what I did do was put the stamp back in place. I was going to do this shadow effect. I said, no, let's get this lined up directly. And then I'm going to come in with a black ink. Now, what's great, that black ink just resisted off of the leaves where the copper is and the sunflower, which was absolutely awesome because I think that looks cool that it crosses over the thanks. I think it's great that the thanks is straddled between those two flowers. Why not cross it over? Could you put it in the area where there is no images stamped? Absolutely. You can do that too. Again, have fun with this process. Enjoy it. Try new things. But just by putting the black on top of that brown, I do have a very deep, deep brown because it does look brown. I do apologize for that sun glare. We've been having some awesomely, beautifully sunny days. And if I didn't cover this one area, so the sun rays do come in. So I try to stay low. Okay, so for our next card, again, these papers were absolutely gorgeous. So I cut down a panel on one, and it has this oval in there that's a perfect opening for one of the sentiments. So I chose friendship. Again, I'm using my Champagne Recollections embossing powder. And then I'm going to go around the edge with this using my clear ink and then coming in on the edges with that same embossing powder just to give it a little bit more. Now, I don't care if the embossing powder gets all over. I wasn't worried too much about that. So I am just going to heat around that. It'll help to give it a frame. Now, I am pulling in a dark piece of cardstock. Again, cardstock that came in the kit. I do try to stick with the items that come in the kit when I'm creating my cards. Oh, it's good to be back with this. I miss doing these. So that you can see the contents in the kit can get you very far. You just have to add, scissors, glue, your embossing powders, sometimes embellishments, but especially your imagination. I mean, my goodness, have fun with it. So I am going to use my fun foam again, and I'm going to prop this up onto another piece of the pattern paper. But again, you can see I only have it coming out the top and the bottom. I am going to trim down the one side so that that brown panel is centered, so that when I put it down on my standard A2 size card base, which is, this one is a side folding, I do have that white border that is going around it. So very simple. Just add your sentiment to that cardstock. Now, awesome me, because I'm that awesome. So did this card, had a ball with it, very simple to do, totally forgot to hit the record button. So I'm actually going to recreate it because that's how simple this one was. So I'm using my Simon Says Intense Black. Now, I know it says Intense Black, but I do like the fact that if you just stamp with it once, you get like a gray tone. To me, it's not really intense, but I do like it. I like the softness that it gives for stamping a sentiment. So I took that huge floral image and straddled that across the card front. That's cut to 4 by 5 1/4. And then I took the thanks in my clear ink over that, and I'm going to use my gold, my Recollections Gold metallic embossing powder. I will heat set that. Now, I do love metallics. Now, you could leave it just like this. You can see the image fine. However, I wanted to add, and what I did there, because again, I forgot to hit that record button, I went around it with my colored pencil, black, just to give it a cloud. so that it would stand out. And then I used some Fossilized amber for splatters. This card's going to be a while, so I can gab into it. So having fun with the pattern papers. So we had some great colors here. I had this beautiful bright magenta, that teal blue, the amber yellow, and then that wood tone, which gives it another color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill up this entire panel with pattern paper strips. Again, let your pattern paper do the work. And there's so much that you can do. Now I am using a tape runner to put my adhesive down. And I'm just adding the different lengths of strips. And because they're at different angles when I started at the bottom, these will be at different lengths as well. So it's almost like you're creating a wooden floor. Although this wooden floor would look really cool in a house with these, with the pinks, the teals, and the ambers. I think it'd be cool. So you can see this isn't taking long at all. It didn't take many strips, less than what I thought it was going to take. But you can see this very unique image that is being built and being created, and alls we're simply doing, these strips are cut to be 1/4 of an inch, and alls we're doing is just filling up a panel that's 4 by 5 1/4 and just having fun with it. Now when you pull the piece of paper up, you do have to use the liquid glue because it sticks to the paper. I'm just saying. So as I finish up the top, you can see you've just got this, depending upon how you're looking at it. You know, if you're looking at it in a portrait style, it looks one way. Since you're looking at it on a landscape way, it looks another way. It almost creates an illusion. Just a little bit, which again, I think is really, really cool. I'm just going to trim off that little bit of the background cardstock that I used. I am going to use a piece of the dark brown. Nope, I'm sorry, that is black. A piece of black cardstock. I did pull that from my stash. I didn't want the brown. I think if I would have added brown, it would have, which would have been fine if I wanted that, would have made it either look vintage or would have toned down the colors. I really wanted these colors to pop and stand out, and black will always do that. I am using the sentiment strips or pre-printed sentiments that came in the kit, and I'm using my Spellbinders cutter. This is absolutely wonderful for these. You can see through it, you can shift that line. There's a excuse me, there's a barrier to stop it. They've got a blade for paper and they've got a blade for foil. So it is, I am vastly and immensely falling in love with that. As I continue to use it, I'm still working with it, just trying to get used to it. But it did cut the sentiment perfect, and gave me straight lines. I can't say that. I can never cut anything with straight lines. Scissors, I don't have a problem with it. Trimmers, yeah. Just can't do it. I'm going to add some sequins to this. The sequin pack that comes with the kit has all sizes of sequins. And instead of me fighting with my sequin picker up there, because again, I'm kind of moving my room, things are starting to get boxed up, and of course I felt the need to box up my wax pencils, so might have to find those. So I do hope you enjoyed the 5 cards that I created using the Simon Says Stamp monthly kit, and remember, this one's called the Big Thanks Autumn. I really enjoyed this. The papers are absolutely gorgeous. This stamp set is so versatile. But I encourage you to check this out. If you have this kit, enjoy if you haven't already. As always, the products that I did use for this will be down in the video description, and make sure you leave a question if you have one down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Yes, we are close to the 2020 Christmas series, so stand by. It will be starting. Remember, that's Thursday at 6 p.m. Thanksgiving, and that will be the 26th of November. Everyone, please continue to enjoy your day. Continue to enjoy this process. But most of all, continue to stay safe and healthy. Till next time, guys. Take care. And remember, always be creative.